Hello, my name is Stephen Braybrook, and today I will be speaking to you regarding biomechanical assessing, some of the current ideologies, and maybe offering an alternative perspective. We're looking at how to assess somebody through the ideologies of biomechanics. So like I said, my name is Stephen Braybrook. I'm also known as the Movement Man, and my background is I have a Master's in Biomechanics, and currently I'm working on a big project which speaks about alternative laws, ideologies and theories regarding biomechanics. And hopefully you guys may have seen some of that, or hopefully you will see something in the future. But today I'm going to be speaking about biomechanical assessment, biomechanical presentations regarding finding areas of discomfort, finding areas of unpredictability, finding areas of problems regarding our human movement, or should we be going that route, and is that the right route to go down? So really, can you think of some movement screening? In the last 5 to 6 years, biomechanics has gone from the university type ethos to a more practical type environment for personal trainers to use with their clients to find a gold standard of movement, and trying to get your client to match this gold standard and to try to come up with strategies to bring them close to that gold standard, or to find associated areas that may cause problems down during a movement pattern, during a activity which requires them to perform some sort of power, speed, endurance, etc. In the last 4 or 5 years, movement screening has become very popular. There are many different forms of movement screening offered throughout the world, and there are many personal trainers who are using movement screenings. But I just want to open the ideas up to looking at a movement screen that may not be as clear as what people are suggesting movement screening should be. So let's have a little think about some of the current movement screening. Some of the current movement screening is based on isolated actions, based on artificial environments, based on finding a mathematical number for an angle of a body, or position of the spine, and trying to bring us towards this perfect gold standard ideology that no one quite understands where the gold number or the gold standard came from. So why are there so many different biomechanical screenings? I like this little comment. We all have something in common. It's just a matter of taking the time to find out what it is. So what is it that all these guys, all these movement screenings have in common? And maybe it's to make some money. Maybe it's a product out there that people can go and buy over and over again to allow themselves maybe juice an ego in the respect of wanting to be the best, wanting to show people that they are the best. I want them to put information across that they think is the best. I'm not saying all movement screens and the organizers and designers of the movement screens are going through this route, but there are a lot of people making a very good income, and there are lots of people who are shouting quite loud regarding some of the ideologies behind movement screening. And there are a lot of personal trainers out there currently who are using these without maybe having the background information or knowledge of where the ideas came from in the first place. So let's have a look at some of the current models. I won't be naming models. That's disrespectful to the geniuses and the excellent practitioners that are putting this information across, but just look at some of the current models. And you guys out there in personal training land have seen, are doing, will be doing some of these movement screens on a regular basis. But in general, most of those are isolated out from the rest of the body, taking a single part of the system away from its entire structure and trying to say that that what part system is responsible for whatever problem or you currently have or that you're associated with having. It's also isolated from a table or floor treatment away from the evolution or the evolutionary motions that we carry out. It's a one-size-fits-all model. It fits for me, it must work for the next person, it must work for the next person, it must work for the next person. We're trying to find a gold standard, trying to find a number for degree of angles, trying to find a number for a power output or a speed output, trying to find the number for muscle forces, whichever it's going to be. Most of the time it's trying to find an angle, trying to find a 45-degree angle, a 15-degree angle, a 60-degree angle, whatever it's going to be. But it's dependent on who. No one knows where these numbers came from. No one knows who these numbers were participated upon. And when you do your research into any scientific paper, there are always anonymities, disagreements, and problems associated with the study that the researcher will put across. And it's these problems that are the real parts of the study, not the individuals they're trying to put the study across on, because they are hand-selected to find certain individuals with certain numbers that allow for the statistics and for the information put across made more simpler. It's therapy dominant. It's a therapist dominant. This is therapist ideas and the ideas only. It's their views, no one else's views. And who to say that these views are right? Who to say that this therapist who's putting this information across has all the information? It's out of context to the own life movements, emotions. It's not looking at why did you hurt your back playing golf? Why did you hurt your knee digging your garden? Why did you hurt your hand picking your son up? All these movements that we all carry out individually and differently. There's some people that listen to this that play golf. There's some people that won't play golf. There's some people that go and pick up their children. There's some people that haven't got children. It's a function of your life. These analyses are not taken as a function of your life. They're taken as an artificial function of maybe activities that you are not carrying out, maybe activities that you are not currently doing, like lying on the floor, raising a limb, like standing and assessing a motion without moving. They're not tested with evolutionary movements. And if they are, they're modified to find areas of possibly non-function to that movement. Lunges, squats, sitting on the floor, sitting in the chair, walking, climbing, swimming, running, jumping, hopping, bounding, all these sort of evolutionary movements that we all carry out. We might not have the same force, the same speed, the same rhythm, the same coordination as anybody else. We're all different and move differently, but we all carry that in some form. It's these activities that we're not looking at biomechanical analysis. We are taking a dynamic motion and putting it into a static action. There's no timing to these motions. And if they are, they're artificial timings. They're a tempo which is predicted, a 2 up, a 2 down, a 3 up, a 3 down. We don't move with a time in our system. Our time is our rhythm. And this rhythm is a natural occurrence to each and every one of us. And to try to tap into that person's rhythm, each second of emotion is only by them tapping in. Only you, yourself, the person who is being tested upon, changes the rhythm. If somebody else has changes your rhythm and you start to match that rhythm, it's no longer a natural rhythm. So all the biomechanical analysis may guide you towards this artificial gold standard one-size-fits-all number, but it's taking out consideration how you have self-organized yourself to become this unity that you see in front. They teach through the biomechanical models that are currently being portrayed. And if you have listened to some of my webinars before, or read my stuff, you'll see that some of the biomechanical models that are currently being displaced in academia and then dripped down into personal training are laden with problems, and the foundation which they are built upon are rocky. And when you're teaching a machine principle to describe the human body or the human movement or the biomechanical analysis, a machine describing a human in a biomechanical analysis, there's a slight problem. And I won't be speaking too much about my own personal work, but if you want to ask questions, by all means you can do at a later date. But we're not teaching the skill. All movements are skill, and each individual will perform that skill differently. And it's allowing that person to find their own way within that skill. It's the true mechanical, or my apologies, it's a true biomechanical analysis. Not finding a one number fits all. There's no natural speed to biomechanical analysis. It's all predicted. We don't move with predictable speeds. We change our speeds according to the rhythm we're trying to find through the different coordination patterns, agility patterns, and mobility patterns, and stability patterns, all these different areas to get us from point A to point B. And we got to do that all differently. And we should be allowed to do it differently for analysis. And only then should we better tweak those analyses, not trying to find an artificial number for an artificial action in an artificial environment. There is no natural reaction. This system is being told how to move. It's not been allowed how to move. We are complex and chaotic creatures. You cannot pinpoint a mechanical principle in each and any one of us, let alone trying to find a biomechanical analysis to identify what is going wrong at any point of motion, taken away from what is the environmental and the evolutionary systems of movement. Everything has an artificial motion. We try to slow down acceleration, deceleration. We try to change the forces through our body. We're trying to change the speed, the rhythm, the coordination for our system. It's these systems that we are adapting to every second. We cannot be told how to do these. We must do these naturally. Like I said before, using common biomechanical information has a slight problem because we're trying then in mechanical analysis, they're trying to find a number built on a linear motion. We're not recognizing that the body is self-organizing. It's this self-organizing state that we must analyze before we make our client successful. We're not using a stimulus in our analysis. What you see, what you touch, what you hear, what you taste, what you feel, what we are feeling, what we are seeing, what we are reacting to, not what the therapist wants us to react to by putting us in an artificial position. And there is no evolutionary aftercare. We're not told after how to go back into our patterns of digging the garden, playing with my children, kicking a soccer ball with my son, cleaning my house, weeding my garden. All these natural actions that we're going to carry out, and we all have different actions that our life is being portrayed around. We're not told how to work on these. These are our true biomechanical analysis. Not an artificial environment where we do not move, either laying on the floor, on a table, or even standing up. Placing our different body parts in different positions, trying to find what is happening at part A, isolated from part B, and taken away from part C. Being told how to do this from a therapist who may have or may not have all the information needed. Ultimately, we are taking away the individuality of a human being and told this is how you're going to work on a machine type principle. And this list can go on and on and on and on and on. So biomechanical analysis is, at present, in my view only, is taking away the natural reaction and identity of the individual and placing it upon a machine principle to find a predictable pattern of motion. So what does this tell us? What does this information tell us? That my knee's at 15 degrees on the left side and 14 on the right side, and that is a contributing factor to my knee pain. Does it tell me that? It's isolated from the rest of the system. Does it matter what my degree of actions are? I'm a self-organizational creature. And you guys know how many bones we have in our body, how many muscles we have in our body, how many ligaments and tendons we have in our body, how many cartilages we have in our body, how the fascia works. You guys know this. How can we isolate one out from the other? Can we repeat the same test twice on the same person when every single action we are ever going to carry out is not identical to the previous one and will not be identical to the next one being carried out? We are not symmetrical creatures. My left and my right side do not look the same. My upper, my lower body does not look the same. We are not the same creature cut down in half. Everything moves differently from each other, but works as a system to find organization. So is this realistic? When I'm standing there doing an analysis on someone and saying that degree of problem, that's a problem, that's a problem, and I haven't even moved yet. I haven't even reacted to the environment yet. I haven't even been able to think for myself yet. And then this information is taken into, we need to work on that, we need to work on this, and we need to work on that. Still they're making us even more artificial, because what we came in with was our own, and now it's no longer our own. It's somebody else's ideas. It's an artificial pose. It's an artificial posture that we are now adapting, which we have no recognition of at all. Trouble is, where these ideas come from, what's this gold standard? No one knows this gold standard. And if it's taken from biomechanical principles and laws that academia lose, then there's filled with problems. It's laden with errors. There's foundational problems that the house is going to come crumbling down upon. Ultimately, you find this number, you find this mechanical principle, you give a program, but does it last? Does the pattern change automatically? Do you get an instantaneous wow reaction? Possibly. Do you walk out the building and still carry on that wow action when you live your normal life in your normal environment and you now have to take control of your body? The answer would be, for most people, no. Hence why there's certain therapists in certain modalities that you keep going back to week in, week out for the same result. And the problem is, would you take your car to a garage if you had a problem? Yes. If that problem got fixed and you went away and it broke down again, would you take the car to the same garage and get the same problem fixed? The answer would be no. But there are many people going back to biomechanical analysis and getting told the same thing week in, week out, and getting the training on it week in, week out. And they come and do another biomechanical analysis, and the same problem occurs, and the same system is then put in place. And then weeks later, they put another biomechanical analysis in, and something else changes, and they give a program on that. It's going to change. We're self-organizational creatures. You change one part, you change the whole system. But no one knows what a gold standard is, because there is no gold standard. So if we're not going to be looking at this gold standard of actions on this artificial, non-lifelike analysis, then what can we use? We can use what I believe is a motion notation. Because this is personal, individual, we can look at evolutionary movements. It's natural. We have real-time actions. We have real simulations of the action, how the action is occurring. We facilitate the action. We help guide. We don't construct and tell and form. We can use what I call the 3S observations. We can treat all actions as a skill and a skill only. And that skill is personal to the individual with no gold standard back to it. We can use AS observation and identify 3 areas that we can look upon when we're looking at how someone moves and how someone's going to react to that movement. So the 3 S's: sequential, simultaneous, and successive. When I'm looking at human movement, I'm not whining about a number. I'm not whining about an ideology of a perfect structure. I'm taking a person in the actions that they are going to be carrying out throughout their life. And I'm looking at a sequential action of a body part, or what I call phrasing, where non-adjacent body parts move one after the other. For example, shoulder moves, then knee, then head, then finger, then thumb, then opposite hand, then down to the feet. Okay, I can move my body in any direction I want, like I am now. Place my fingers up, my thumb will a little move, and I might move my elbow. Is this a nice smooth action? Is it nice and soft? Is it flowing? Is it rhythmical? Look at simultaneous, an aspect of the body, or as I say, a body phrasing, which is a group of, where all activity body move at once. And I move my hand, my elbow as one. And I move my shoulder, my hand at one. I'm allowed to do it. My body wants to do it. But is it smooth? Is it rhythmical? Is it balanced? Is it coordinated? And successive, an aspect of the body phrasing where adjacent parts move one after the other. Elbow, hand, fingers. Shoulder, elbow, hand, fingers, for example. I start one, I move the second, I move the third. So I can move different parts of the body. I can move the whole body as one. I can move a chain or a link of actions. My body's allowed to do this, but I'm looking for how smooth is it? I'm looking how rhythmical is it? How soft, how flowing, how natural, how graceful. AST, action systems. In the action systems, I need to have these three things constant to me at all times because they are in everything we do. I must look at the constraint of the person, whether that's through the brain, of their feelings, thoughts, emotions, of the past, present, and the future actions that they're going to be carrying out. So how they feel about an action, how they feel about a movement. They like it, do they dislike it? Also the constraints of the body. Some body parts may not look like other parts, like I said earlier. They're not going to be moving the same. I'm taking this in consideration because the body's now organising itself to the best it wants to be organised in, and it's true to the individual. I need to look at the environment. Where am I being positioned in this? Is there a floor change, which I see in every single action I make? Carpet, grass, tiles, wood, slippery, non-slippery, bubbly, non-bubbly, list can go on. What about the environment above us and around us? Wind, rain, sun, snow, sleet, ice, hot, cold, closed, open. All these environments to us are there at every second that we live on this planet. And the task, what is my task? If I'm going to do a squat, what kind of squat am I doing? It has to be a task that I carry out in my daily life. So I might pick my son up. It's not a perfect squat. How can I then test a perfect squat against a gold standard when you cannot test a perfect squat? You cannot test a non-perfect squat against a gold standard because there is no gold standard for a non-perfect squat. So I position a person in this gold standard position, which is very artificial and it's not lifelike. I'm not going to stand there with my hands over my head in a squat position ever in my life unless I do an activity which requires that. And there are activities in the gym that will require that. And that may be an assessment, but it may be a different assessment with a different hand placing, different foot placing. It may not be this perfect gold standard. And even then, there are so many individual body parts working as one to make the system move. How can I say that one's more important than the other and one's isolated out from the other? And that is a problem when everything else is balancing itself up. Speaking again, just want to reiterate this one because I think for me, this is the most important thing when I look at human movement or the efficiency, human efficiency. Energy efficiency, transmissibility cycle, whichever you want to call it, how the body is allowed to use the energy that's being created from inside and outside to allow for my actions to be rhythmical and smooth. So sequential, different body parts moving that you think are not associated, but we know that the system is one. I move one part, every system moves. Simultaneously, where everything's moving at once. I know that because every part's connected and allowed to be stable and mobile and pushed through. Or successive, each chain in the link is being moved. If I can make those movements smooth, rhythmical and graceful, and they are going to occur in every action I make, depending on the task, the constraint on the individual and the environment that I'm living in. But what are the three areas of identification? First one is the body. It's the initiation of movement starting from specific body parts. We said simultaneous, sequential. What was the last one? Successive. Successive, simultaneously, and sequential. Those are the three areas that I'm looking for when I'm looking for the initiation of a movement. Where's the movement coming from? Is it joined? Is it linked? Is it individual, but then passing on to the next stage? Is it passing on along the stage that has no connections between, ideally, hand to toe? Doesn't look like there's a connection because I'm not going through the elbow or down for the knee. But I've still got the connection through the systems. Connection of different body parts together. Signals of movements between body parts. Pattern on the organization and the connectivity of the body. I call this the patterns of total body sequence, or the patterns of total body square connectivity. The total patterns of the body. If you look at the total patterns of the body and how they move through the sequential, simultaneous and successive parts of an action, all together, one after the other, different parts of the body working as a unit, then I can see how graceful and smooth each individual is. Second part is the dynamics. So when we look at dynamics, we're looking at four main key areas. We're looking at space, looking at the weight, the time and the flow. The space, is the space they're working in or the space their body is producing soft, rhythmical and flexible? Is the weight going through their feet light and flowing? Is the time nice, unrhythmical, uncoordinated, unbalanced and flowed? And is the flow free? Is it allowed to move in any direction that the body wants to move in? And it's these four factors that I call dynamics. And dynamics is a system for understanding the more subtle and characteristics of how we move. All these can be associated with how you think and how you feel and how you act and how you believe and how you like and how you dislike. But I want my movements through the sequential, successive and simultaneous motions I make to be flexible, light, sustained, free, indulging, not fighting the system. I want to have a freedom about my system, a freedom about my movement, a flow about my movement. I want to be working in a nice spatial environment. The environment becomes big or small depending on the task I'm putting in. So my assessment or my notation needs to be part of what my body is wanting to do due to the task that I carry out in my daily life. And I need to feel like I'm weight shifting or changing balance positions and feeling that motion through the feet. That gives me that lightness. I need to look at breath. I need to see how my mechanics of breathing is currently functioning. What part of my system is breathing? Because an option of breathing of 21,700 times a day will allow me to optimize lightness and freedom and flow. Said about phrasing within the sequential, simultaneous, successive actions. And everything is a rhythmical state, the timing and coordination of the movement. Third one is shape. So while the body primarily develops connections within the body, the way the body changes during the motion is how you're going to react to what you want to be doing. You want to see how the body moves. That's your key, not identifying landmarks, not identifying angles or positions. See how the body moves and see how the body is allowed to change shape if you work with environment, tasks and constraints, and you allow the body to optimize whether it's successive, simultaneous or sequential motion. These are our shape categories. And shape forms describes how the body is being manipulated during any of those actions. And the modes of shape change describes the way the body is interacting with the rest of the system. Simply, I want to see how the body moves. I want to see how it changes shape. If I'm in a deadlift, what's the shape of a deadlift that I want? How close is the person to that own shape of a deadlift? I'm finding the shape. I'm finding a pattern. Not a gold standard pattern, the individual's pattern. We can look at basic shape forms. We can look at topping the upper body and the lower body. So identifying how the sequence, the simultaneous and the successive actions are occurring from there. But you're probably sitting there thinking, well, how am I going to do this? What, with a normal biomechanical analysis, I can put them up there, I can map against a piece of paper. Are you close, yes or no? This is how simple it is when you do a notation. Take pictures of the individual performing the actions you want. Take moving pictures of the action they're taking. And do this over and over again and map a picture upon another picture and see how the shape changes. Draw your pictures in a nice cartoon format if you want to and see how the shape changes. Take videos. Identify, are there areas through their movement where they may be holding a little bit of stability in areas and they may be using a whole successive action where it may be more sequential in nature. And you may then just give that person a little bit of movement to release and become sequential. You might want successive movements during an action, but currently they are simultaneously action becoming a movement. So they're moving simultaneous. But we have no idea how that works until we look at the individual. And each individual is going to be completely different. If it looks like it's not working and it looks like it's not rhythmical and smooth and balanced and coordinated and soft and flowing, then there may be some reason why. You may change simultaneous to a summative or summative to a successive. Because as long as it's looking smooth, rhythmical, coordinated, balanced, flowing, gentle and easy, then you know the motion is correct for that individual. Match these against time. Same person against same person against same person against same person. You do it with heart rate training. You do it with numbers in a strength program. Do it with your motion. Watch for the 3 S's, simultaneous, successive and sequential. Look for the AS, observations. What's the task I'm carrying out? Because that's going to change at every single activity, and the simultaneous, successive, sequential will be changed. What's the environment I need to be doing things in? What's the constraint psychologically, physically, emotionally, nutritionally, chemically, and the person's bringing? What's my body doing? What's the shape of it doing? What's the flow of the body doing? And if you look at these as a simple notational analysis of drawing pictures of the individual over time and not taking a mathematical equation, if you do these through the evolutionary movements that man made, that we have been given and not isolated out on a table, you use the whole body as a self-organizing system, and changing the task on the environment or the constraints will change the self-organization. If you want someone to do a movement and they can't do it smoothly, change the environment they do it in. Change the task that they're trying to do from. They're trying to gain to a task. They're trying to do something. Change that something. Change your constraints. Make them think, feel, act, believe better. Look at the sequential actions. Is this a sequential action I'm looking for? Is it more of a summative? Or is it more successive actions? Or are there different parts through that? We're all going to do it differently. As long as it looks smooth and rhythmical and balanced and coordinated, you can take a picture, you can draw your pictures, you can photograph your pictures, you can video your pictures, map it against the individual time and time and time again. And if it's looking better and feeling better, then your analysis or your notation is working. That's true biomechanical analysis, looking at the energy flow through the body, looking at the transmissibility cycle of energy in and energy out, making the person feel like they believe that they can move, that they are moving and they're finding their own way to move. We are energy efficient creatures. Evolution gave us efficiency. One of the parts of evolution that we became more efficient due to vibration and amplify effects and things like this. But more importantly, we are able to move in an efficient, in an economical manner. And trying to find numbers and saying that is the correct way to find and move is a fallacy and a problem. We are all going to move differently. And my notation analysis on my client is how do they move and how soft, smooth, rhythmical, balanced, flowing? Is it sequential, summative, or successive? Which parts of those can I then map against my pictures time and time again? And my program is built on making it smooth and rhythmical. It's an individual thing. It's not a gold standard. It's not a one-size-fits-all. Yes, you may get some instantaneous results with one-size-fits-all. But when that person leaves your environment and they're living their life, making their own decisions, finding their own summative, successive, and sequential motions without being told directly that you need to do this and this and this, I'm going to tighten, strengthen, weaken, release. That is no longer their movement. That is your movement, and that movement may be based on ideologies that makes the individual feel and look and move like a robot away from the environment that they currently live in. The next time you have your clients in the gym, just see how they move and say to yourself, does this look like it's free, both physically and psychologically? If it's not, how can I just change something to make it look better? If it looks better, it will feel better. And biomechanical analysis or notation, which I like to call it, should always look on the 3 S's. Sequential actions, summative actions, sequenced actions. And you should always use the AS observations of a task the person's carrying out, the environment the person needs to be doing it in, and the constraints both psychologically, physically, nutritionally, chemically, neurologically, and how these are put into your practice as notation will allow you to be an individual biomechanical movement expert. I hope you like that, guys. There's a lot of information there. Some of it is different from maybe some of the current ideologies. But this has been going on for generations upon generations of years, of decades of decades. And the graceful movers and movement practitioners in this world were not and will not be mechanically analyzed. There will be notation analyzed on the skill and the freedom of the action. The next time you watch someone dance, do a martial art, anything which requires the body to be free, their skill and their shape will change when they become more efficient. The actions, summative, sequential, successive, will all be available to the individual when the individual requires it. And they can do it in different task environments and constraints. Over time it will get better and better, and they're mapping against each other. Only them and themselves, not against a partner, not against a gold standard. And then they become a biomechanical efficiency and a biomechanical efficient individual. Then you become a biomechanical notation expert. Thank you, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Josh will have this available to you very soon. So if there's any questions, please see me, Stephen Braybrook, or the Movement Man. That's my Facebook, Stephen Braybrook, the Movement Man. And if you want to know more about what I currently do, please ask. There are some audios, webinars that are available. There's a book that is an ebook which is available, and a main book which hopefully will be out sometime in the summer. So thank you so much for your time, guys. Hope this has been informative for you guys, and more importantly, I hope it opens up imagination for you to go and look at your clients in a slightly different way from the structured mechanical principles currently offered in biomechanical analysis. Thanks so much, and have a great night.